The candidates are in campaign mode right now. Associated Student Body elections are next week.
Tonight we'll have some of the candidates joining us right here on NewsWatch.
Hello and welcome to the special ASB edition of NewsWatch. I'm Sudu Upadhyay.
And I'm Meredith Parker. Joining us tonight is presidential candidate Austin Powell, secretary candidate Austin Spindler, and treasurer candidate Grayson Giles.
We've also got the chance to speak to other candidates this week as well, and we'll hear a little bit from them later in the show.
By now, you've probably noticed that there are 6 positions and only 6 candidates. All 6 are running unopposed, and unless there are some big surprises, these candidates will be your ASB officers.
So why the lack of opposition? Yesterday, Madison Hall spoke to student body officials to get to the bottom of this unusual election.
6 officer positions and only 6 candidates on the ballot. The question to be answered is why?
Why did this happen? I can't give you a definite answer. There's many reasons that could happen. A lot of people talk it up. Don't get me wrong, all 6 candidates are very deserving, very deserving, very great qualified candidates. They might have scared off competition.
I think at all universities, I think there's a group of people who, have their eye on serving the university student governing body. And I think that this year just happened to be a smaller amount.
Even though the candidates are running unopposed, ASB's main goal is still to increase student interest.
The people that don't necessarily know or don't necessarily maybe not care as much about politics that we're trying to get to, and that's the tough obstacle. So we're trying to make it cool. Maybe I thought Snapchat is a great way to reach out. So on election day, we're trying to have a geotag. A lot of people are social media crazy, and I think that would be a great opportunity to spread the word about ASB.
You see we're unopposed, and so it's just how can we get students who normally wouldn't be involved with ASB to have at least some level, when they graduate after 4 years, to say, ASB did this for me.
The lack of competition in this year's election will not affect how candidates campaign.
As far as campaigning goes, it might be a different angle, not nearly as competitive. Don't be surprised. I would not be surprised if there's some writing candidates who make a stint there towards the end.
One thing that it's going to be really important for us to do since we're unopposed is to say, this is my platform, this is what I'm running on. And I think everybody knows that. And so it's moving forward, saying, this is what I'm going to give you as being this position, whether it's president or treasurer or anything else.
The only issue is whether students will want to participate in an uncontested election.
I've never been too particularly driven to vote and participate in ASB. Now that I know they are running unopposed, that really isn't making me have any more desire to participate.
It's kind of well, why even vote if they're already going to get it? It's kind of taking away the competition aspect of everything.
ASB members are still encouraging students to vote.
Voting is a fundamental principle of democracy. It is important to vote. I know there's 6 unopposed candidates as of right now. It could change with write-ins.
This year, elections will take place on your My Ole Miss account. All you have to do is go under the Get Involved tab and click on Vote in Student Elections. The elections will take place on Tuesday, April 5th. Madison Heil, NewsWatch Ole Miss.
Now we're joined by presidential candidate Austin Powell. Austin, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me.
So to start it off, tell us a little bit, all 6 of you are running unopposed. Is that a little strange or not?
I saw it kind of as a fluke year. Every single other year there at least have been 2 or 3 positions that have been uncontested, but usually the majority of them have been contested. But it's just kind of one of those things that I didn't expect to happen. I fully expected somebody to run against me in every other position that we have here. It was just really unusual.
Yeah, Austin, Meredith brings up a good point, and there's kind of this rumor going around, and you can obviously dispel it for us if it's untrue, but people were saying, well, maybe they all sat down together and decided, hey, we're all going to run for offices, because you look at the ASB Twitter, you look at the Facebook, there's really no advertising for these positions. So kind of tell us why that's the case.
So usually what happens is people decide the month or the 2 months before that they want to run, and dispelling all rumors, there was no machine or nothing of that nature here at Ole Miss. But something that has kind of come into question since we've talked about the uncontested is what are the requirements for people to run? And I feel that was one of the main hindrance of having candidates was just are you meeting the certain hours? Are you 60 hours in for president? Because if you're not, then you can't run. So you have to be qualified as a junior. So treasurer, secretary, all the positions have that as well. And you have to also have the experience to come with it. So you have to have the 1-year term. And so sometimes things like that kind of hinder some people from running.
So were there people that had met those and just decided not to run, or were y'all the only qualified ones of people that are running?
I think it was a little bit of both. I think there were people who wanted to run and figured out they couldn't do it last minute, and then there were also people who decided, I'm qualified, but it's also one of the things you have to put yourself out there. And especially being a candidate for any of the 6 positions, it's your face is all over campus, whether it's on a graphic or anything like that. It's well, I don't know if I'm prepared to, one, lose the campaign, but much less like run for one.
So let me tell you, let me ask you a question here. Tell me a little bit more about your presidential campaign and what you hope to do this year, and what are some of your goals that you hope to accomplish?
So I'm really excited to be running, so I'm really excited about that. So far this year, hopefully what we're looking to accomplish is, my platform is One Ole Miss, and so what that stands for is opportunity, network, and efficiency. So opportunity, and we serve 4,000 incoming freshmen almost every single year. We have freshman council that serves 60 of them. How can we serve a little bit more? So opening up, hopefully, 2 more freshman programs, hopefully called Freshman Forum and Freshman Board. And then in the networking, it's just kind of to strengthen the ASB network. If we're supposed to be the premier umbrella organization that all organizations, student organizations, get help from, how can we do that better? And so one thing that I'm really excited about doing is a president advisory council, and so in that is like every week we'll have a meeting in the ASB office once a month, hopefully, and say whatever student organizations that are registered can come and have a president or have somebody who is an official of the organization. And so we can talk about what ASB can do for them, but also what they can do for ASB. And so it's kind of like more like, so people aren't hearing of, oh, I didn't know what the big event was, or I didn't know what Vietnamese Student Association was. So like everybody has the opportunity to be there, and so I think it's really important for that as well. And then the last thing is efficiency, and so it's kind of making sure internally what our structure is and like how we're being efficient as a student government.
Yeah, your goals and hopes are big for your constituents to understand what kind of person you are and how you're going to be leading. Obviously, this year's President Rod Bridges faced a lot of key issues, and that included the Confederate statue, the flag, renaming Vardaman Hall possibly. Where do you sit on issues like that, and are you going to address things like that?
So that's exactly one of my main things about the campaign is like we all have like that Ole Miss experience and how to get it or like what that's like. And so it's not something that's just for one type of students, for all types of students. And so hopefully during my candidacy we'll be able to address issues like that, but do it in a timely and respectful manner. So like what that means is making sure like this is what the students want, and like making sure the student government process is going efficient as well.
So where did you stand on a lot of these key issues this year?
So especially with the flag debate coming through, it was just like I'm an African American male, I'm in a predominantly white fraternity, I enjoy things like that, and so it's just like saying for me that things like the flag and how can Ole Miss progress forward. And so I was really excited to see that there was student interest in it, and I was really excited to see that the flag was ultimately taken down.
Do you feel like there will be social pressure for you? You mentioned being in a predominantly white fraternity, things like that, to act a certain way and not maybe do what you really want to do, or are you the type of guy that's going to stick to your guns and say, this is what I believe in and I feel like this is what we should do?
I feel like you can kind of see it on social media and like people supporting me or not, and they kind of know that I have a high sense of integrity. And that moral responsibility comes from within and not from anybody else. And so honestly, a lot of people from just all over have been saying like, hey, like this is how we feel about the flag issue, but like if you're not a student on campus, then it kind of is irrelevant. And so for me, it's saying like, okay, what are we doing as students? Like this is what we're going to do, and this is how we're going to solve the problem.
Going back to you running unopposed this year, your former president of ASB also ran unopposed last year. So is that a trend that we're going to continue to see, or is that something we're hoping to break out of this year?
I hope we're going to break out of it. I talked about the opportunity and the network and the efficiency, and so that's something that we're really going to hone in, hopefully with the cabinet that we have coming this following spring. And so we're going to sit down and with freshman council and with hopefully all of ASB and say, look guys, like this is not okay. Like what kind of culture are we inhibiting here on campus, and like what are we saying for other students who want to get involved? What are we saying for the females who want to say like I want to run for an ASB position because there are no females as well? And so it's just addressing that is like everybody's qualified. Like you guys just get out there and do it and put yourself out there.
Definitely. Well, thank you so much, Austin. All right. Well, it'll surely be interesting to watch Austin in his new role, barring any sort of surprises. Thank you for joining us, Austin, and good luck.
And we've still got more ASB up next.
That's right. Austin Spindler, your candidate for ASB Secretary, is joining us in just a moment. NewsWatch will be right back.
Welcome back. Joining us right now is ASB Secretary candidate Austin Spindler. Austin, thank you for joining us on set, man.
I'm really glad to come tonight.
Absolutely. You're kind of the baby of the bunch. Is the secretary position something like a stepping stone for you into next year? And if so, what do you hope to accomplish in your term?
It's not necessarily a stepping stone for me. I personally am doing this position because I come into these organizations and I've always wanted to leave the biggest and best impact that I can. And I felt that this year this is the best impact that I can do.
Secretary is obviously more of a support role than a leadership role on the ASB Exec Board. So tell me, do you have any ideas or any influence that you feel that you'll have in key decisions this year?
I would very much appreciate the opportunity to be an influence on certain decisions and to be a supportive voice to a great extent. And with my platform, it has to do a lot with supporting everyone and bringing executive branch and the legislative branch, which was mostly what the secretary deals with, together.
Going off of that, do you think that you'll have a chance to make ASB meetings and Senate meetings a little bit more accessible this year? Because I know that that's the job of the secretary. How can we make that a little bit more accessible to people that can't attend the meetings?
Oh, definitely. I think a good way to do that is, again, to publicize when these meetings are, where they are, make sure people know what's going on, what's on the agenda, and definitely posting the minutes, opening up more opportunities for people to watch, invite like the DM and other organizations to come and do pieces on Senate, Cabinet, and all these organizations.
Yeah, also it's kind of interesting, all of the candidates running, not only are you guys all unopposed, but you're all guys. And that's something you hear around campus right now is they're all guys. Why do you think that's the case?
Do you know, I really am not like 100% sure why. I just think really people, when they sat back and realized the work that goes into a campaign, a lot of people made the decision that it may not have been worth the effort, and that if they ever heard like whoever else was running, they were like, wow, that's going to be someone who knows what's going on, who knows how to do it successfully. So I don't think it came down to, oh, a boy's doing this, or oh, a girl's going to do this. It was just that they heard that who was going to do it and said, all right.
Going a little bit deeper into that, how do y'all plan to have a more inclusive ASB exec board with all males?
Well, that's also part of my platform, which is which is promote the inclusion of all members of the Ole Miss family. And I think that you could include more women in ASB decisions, women in cabinet, on legislative council, women in Senate, judicial board, elections commission, all these opportunities, and really encourage girls on campus to apply for these positions so that their voice can still be heard.
Yeah, what are some of the key issues that you think that really need to be tackled this year as you serve on the ASB?
I personally, from last year, knew that there was a lot of discourse last semester between the executive branch and legislative branch, and I really hope that that's something that we can focus on in rebuilding the relationship between the two branches.
Do you think you'll have a little bit of a stronger presence with social media this year in making that accessible to students, like you said earlier?
I think that'd be a really good idea, especially considering I'm the IFC Vice President of Public Relations, and so I deal with IFC's social media and making sure that we're promoted and we're promoting good messages, and I think I can bring a lot of that into the ASB as well.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you for joining us. Austin Secretary candidate Grayson Giles will be our next guest.
That's right. Stick around. NewsWatch will be back after this.
Welcome back. Our likely treasurer for the new year, Grayson Giles, is with us. Grayson, we really appreciate you being here.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here and for this opportunity.
Awesome. Well, as you would know, with handling all of the money, ASB executive boards are paid positions. So tell me a little bit about the responsibility that comes with that and the opportunity as well.
The responsibility of handling a lot of the financial matters that go into ASB is one that cannot be taken lightly. I think that it's important to consider that for anyone that is considering running in the future, and then also any kind of decisions that go into anyone who applies and tries to access those funds. So it's very very time consuming and very integrity involved, if you will.
Yeah, obviously, you're in charge of the budget this year. What do you want it to expand to, and what do you really want to focus on?
For the budget to expand, it would really require some increase in the student activities fee. So I don't really think that that's an area that we need to look into. More so, I think that involving more students and becoming more inclusive in how we allocate those funds within the budget would be a better area for us to consider. So as far as expanding a budget, naturally that will happen with student enrollment. But as far as it goes, expanding it next year, I don't foresee any changes to that.
Do you have anything specific that you want to really use that budget on?
Nothing specific comes to mind. I really like to keep it open more to student ideas. So for instance, if a student has an idea that he thinks or she would really enhance overall student well-being on campus, that can be both an inward and outward type experience, that those are funds that are out there.
You talk about student well-being. We talked to Austin about this, but some of the key issues with the symbols on the university is big right now. Where do you side on some of those things? Things like renaming Vardaman Hall, the Confederate statue, the flag, obviously it's down, but just kind of some of those things.
Right. And the flag, obviously, like you mentioned, is down now. I think the biggest thing that we should be concerned with from ASB as a collective group is making sure that every student's voice is heard. I think that everyone has something different to bring to the table, and their views should all be equally considered, no matter what they may be.
Do you think certain students' views are valued more at this university than other students right now?
I wouldn't say so exactly. I think that a lot of that goes into is how passionate and how strongly you feel about your views, and you can see that with certain individuals because, like we said, these are passionate and heated discussions, and there are discussions that need to be had as well.
Yeah, and you mentioned kind of the well-being. I mean, I guess that includes their mental well-being and how students feel under some of these symbols. So, in your opinion, how should that be decided in terms of, I mean, debated and voted on as a general student body overall, or how do you think that should be done?
I believe so, because I believe an open-ended debate really promotes what we talked about a little bit, is every student's voice being heard. And I know that these things can be time-consuming and they can take time away from other things and other interests we may have, but like we said, they're very important discussions that need to be had. Sometimes the hardest way is not always the easiest way, and I think that we as members of ASB realize that, and I think you've seen that in the past, and you'll continue to see that in the future.
Switching it up a little bit, you would know you served as comp controller under current Kate Aspinwall, treasurer of ASB. So tell me a little bit about what you learned underneath her position, but also things that you'd hope to change.
Right, so as a comptroller this past year under the Treasury Department of ASB, we were mainly in charge of allocating funds for the student activities fee. We talked a little bit about that budget tonight, but our roles really kind of range from anything to an internal sense, more toward an external. And so we really strive to make sure that we, like we said, we're taking these considerations very, very formally and considering all different options.
You want to be a little bit more specific on internal sense and external sense. What exact budgets are we talking about?
Right,
there?
so the internal budget would be more of things that are centered around ASB itself, whereas the external budget, which comes from the student activities fee, would be for student organizations on campus who may have student-led initiatives, events going on, and that could be something as simple as them having an informative speaker come in from an educational background, or it could be something as to hosting an event on campus that promotes different interests that the organization may have.
Obviously, being on the exec board gives you influence on this campus, and I asked Austin Powell the same question. Are you the type of guy that'll stick up for what you believe in personally without worrying about what your friends think, what I guess your family thinks, society thinks, and stick to those and kind of, push for those things, or are you the type of guy that'll let those things influence you?
Right. I think from an individual standpoint, I definitely am a guy that would stand up for what I believe, and I believe that my beliefs are firm, and they're that. However, from the standpoint of the Treasury Department, we operate more as a group. And so there's a lot of different discussions that go in. It's a roundtable discussion, and everyone kind of comes together to make a collective group decision, and I think that our individual beliefs reflect that decision.
All right, well, thanks for joining us, Grayson. There are definitely more candidates to still talk about. We've got stories on the remaining exec candidates coming up.
Stick around, NewsWatch. Welcome back. This junior from Gulfport, Mississippi is campaigning to be the next ASB Vice President.
That's right. Michael Howell is a public policy leadership major who hopes to increase transparency in the Senate. Ariel Onstadt stopped by Campaign Alley last night to get the story.
I decided to run for vice president because I had experienced time as a senator, as a committee chairman in the Senate, as well as the director of infrastructure on cabinet. And so being in those different positions has afforded me the opportunity to see what works with the Associated Student Body and areas that we can improve. And that has led to 3 key points I want to point out in my platform over the next course of this week as I campaign, and that is transparency, credibility, and efficiency. Those are 3 things I think we can make a major improvement in, and I'm very excited to see how we can do that. So I would really like to make sure that our senators are held accountable for the position that they've been chosen for. In order to do that, I want to make sure that each of them develop ideas and present their ideas, as well as write resolutions and bills. I want to make sure that we have no senators who are simply taking up a space that another student could use to actually make major changes for this university. I want to make sure that we're going out, getting involved in the student body, making sure that people actually know about the ASB, and I want to make sure that we can communicate with Dr. Bitter and the rest of the administration to actually bring our ideas and our different policies forward so that we can actually implement them. Because sometimes in the past we've actually run into brick walls after we come up with these great ideas, and we want to make sure that that doesn't happen. And right now we're in this great transition period for our university with new leadership, And we're very blessed to have Dr. Bitter. He's very interested in improving the student body, so we're excited to do that.
Ariel Onstadt, NewsWatch Ole Miss.
Rules and procedures are a big part of the Associated Student Body.
Brent Ferguson is the candidate for Attorney General. NewsWatch caught up with him this afternoon for his thoughts on the election.
Running unopposed for Attorney General, Brent Ferguson has straightforward yet admirable goals.
I want people to be involved. I really do. I want people to understand that these aren't just popularity contests. These aren't just, hey, I want to be a part. I want to build my resume. So that's what I want to. So I'm just going to run for something. You know, I don't want that to be the only reason why people are voting. I want students to actually understand this is what I'm running for. This is why I want to run for it, and I want to make sure that you understand that I want to help you.
Ferguson also finds it interesting that he, along with all other candidates, is running unopposed for his office.
When we came into it, I had heard rumors of, you know, this person may be running, this person may be running, and I was all for that because, you know, being a part of the Attorney General office, I want competition. That's part of it. You know, you want to have a fun election. You want to have an election that, like, gets people to pay attention and vote and have two different opposing views. And I don't know, running unopposed is different. It's weird, but I mean, we're also taking it in stride, just making sure that everyone knows, you know, this is still, like, really important to me. I'm not just doing it because I'm unopposed and I'm by myself, you know.
Walter Lyle, NewsWatch, Ole Miss.
This year's candidates for ASB Judicial Chair isn't too far from home.
Hurston Reed is a junior accountancy major from Memphis. He says he wants to get the word out about the Judicial Council and help the student body in any way possible. Serena Henderson reports.
Last night, Hurston Reed joined the other ASB candidates and met with students. He has served on the ASB Judicial Council for 2 years, and he says he wants to continue to serve his student body as Judicial Chair.
My favorite part about serving the Ole Miss student body is getting to see the reactions of other students when they recognize the work that, you know, that results from the unselfish service of others, and it's mainly seeing the impact on those people's lives that keeps you going and makes you want to continue serving them, because it's not about you, it's all about the student body, it's all about serving them.
Serena Henderson, NewsWatch Ole Miss.
Well, those are your candidates. Remember, voting will take place on your My Ole Miss accounts on Tuesday.
While there will likely not be many surprises, next week's results will be announced Tuesday night at 6 p.m. in front of the Lyceum.
Thank you for joining this very special edition of NewsWatch. I'm Meredith Parker.
And I'm Sudu Upadhyay, and do not forget to tune into our sports show, Rebel Watch, tomorrow at 3 p.m.